VJ Smith has been a professional speaker for more than a decade. He's also a published author. VJ honed his speaking skills through his membership in Toastmasters International. He makes over 150 presentations a year to audiences throughout the country. Drawing on his lifetime experiences, Smith peppers his talks with anecdotes and personal stories to illustrate key points. He feels he's better equipped to be a storyteller than a preacher.
A couple years ago, back in my hometown of Brookings, I was going to speak to 200 women, something called University Week for Women. And before I was going to go up and talk, a lady I've known for a long time came up to me and said to me, "Is it okay if my 16-year-old daughter came with me?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." She says, "Well, I'm not very happy with her. She came home late last night, so for punishment, I made her come listen to you talk." Tonight, I'm going to introduce you to a rich man. I don't know how many times you have the opportunity to meet a truly rich individual. Loved, respected, and content with every part of his life. No regrets. That would be a rich man. And I found him at Walmart. Well, this story isn't about Walmart. It's a story about a superstar, and he was my friend. Have you noticed how many people don't say thank you anymore? 11 years ago, I went to the wedding of a young couple I really, really liked, and 11 years later, I am still waiting for a thank you card for the towels I gave them. Has that ever happened to you? I saw that young couple last summer pushing a couple of kids along in a stroller, and do you know the first thing that popped into my head? I hope those towels are scratching you to death. A few years ago, I went around to 6 convenience stores in my hometown of Brookings, and Brookings is no different than Sioux Falls, no different than Brandon, no different than Watertown, no different any place, okay? And I did the same thing. I bought a pack of double mint gum in each place, and at that time, the gum was 25 cents a pack, and in each place, I gave a clerk $1 to see what I'd get back in addition to my change. On one night, I did this. 6 places, 6 packs of gum. I got one thank you. I got one blank stare. I got one, "Is there anything else?" And I got 3, "There you goes." There I goes. So I'm fighting back, and you get to be a part of my army. There's a young lady who works at our grocery store in Brookings. When she sees me walking through the front door, she stops what she's doing, and she just yells, "Thank you." 2 years ago, I'm in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I speak to a group of 200 people. And about 5 days after I got back from Bismarck, I received an email from a woman who was sitting in that audience. She said, "Can you send me 100 cards?" So I sent her 100 cards. 3 weeks later, she sends me another email, and the first line in her email was, "We're having more trouble in North Dakota than I thought. Send more cards." Well, let me tell you about my guy. 5'6", 70-something-year-old, slightly stooped, Aaron Marty Martinson, cashier extraordinaire, Walmart, Brookings, South Dakota. In January of the year 2000, I'm in Marty's line, and I say to myself, why am I always in this old guy's line? There's only 2 people in this line. There's only 1 person in that line. There are 5 people in front of me, and what's wrong with the people in front of me? Do we just have a bunch of time on our hands? But we'd all do the Marty shuffle, and that was slow. And we would wait 5 to 10 extra minutes until it was our moment with him, because when it was our moment with him, we were the only ones in his universe. And he says, "I sure want to thank you for shopping here today. And you have a great day. Bye-bye." You wanted to take him home and feed him cookies. It was as if Sam Walton himself had come back from the dead and invaded this old guy's body. So when Marty gets done with me, I walk over to the service counter and I said, "I want to speak to the manager." Pretty soon a young guy walked up to me and said, "What can I do for you?" I said, "That guy on number 9, the guy with the glasses, number 9, I said, what is his name?" He says, "I can't tell you his name. It's against company policy." I said, "Can you do this? Can you give me the name and the address of the CEO, the big kahuna of Walmart? I'm going to the top. Marty wants to meet you." I said, "Why?" He said, "I was in the line last night and he asked me if I knew who you were." And I said, "I did. Evidently your letter has come back from the chain of command from Bentonville to Brookings because they pulled all the employees together yesterday morning. They read your letter, everybody cheered for Marty, and now he wants to meet you." Well, I was kind of in a dilemma. It just didn't seem real neat to walk up and say, "Hi, I'm the one who wrote the letter." So I hatched a plan. I went out and got golf balls and golf tees, and I threw them down on that little black conveyor belt that's sucked up to him. He scans it. He says to me, "That'll be $21.16. Well, I pulled out a check blank that had my name printed on it. I'm college educated. So I wrote that check. I handed it to Marty. He grabs the check. He goes over to the cash register, starts typing in the amount, and then he sees my name. And he stops. And he looks at me. He looked back at the check. And then he backed away from the cash register. He walked around the counter, and he came up and he stood beside me. And he's looking at me, about that tall. He's looking up at me, and I'm looking down at him. I don't have a clue what's going to happen next. And all of a sudden, he throws his arms around me. And I thought, oh, what the heck? And I threw my arms around him. You ever seen two guys hugging in Walmart? And there's a great scene at the end of the movie, The Wizard of Oz, where the great and powerful wizard has given the cowardly lion courage, the scarecrow brains, and a heart to the Tin Man. And he says to the Tin Man, "Remember, my sentimental friend, a heart isn't judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others." And on that score, Marty won. And in that moment, all those things that we had talked about, all those nights around that wooden table, became crystal clear. In life, you're going to get what you give. And in order to be a friend, sometimes we got to do a little bit more. But when we do those things, good things are going to come back to us. And when good things come back to you, you're going to be happy. And when you're happy, you're rich. Because at that moment, I was looking into the face of the happiest and the richest man in Brookings, South Dakota, and money had not one thing to do with it.